This is the Classic Auto Mall podcast. Broadcast from the studios inside the Classic Auto Mall in Morgantown, Pennsylvania. Yes, the Classic Auto Mall is a real mall just 1 hour west of Philadelphia at Pennsylvania Turnpike exit 298, featuring nearly 1,000 classic, vintage, and barn-find vehicles for sale under one climate-controlled roof. Now, here's your host, Classic Auto Mall president and the man with all the toys, Stewart Howden.
It's amazing the technology that we have, that we can have all this stuff going on. It's pretty crazy.
There's a lot of stuff going on.
I'm impressed with our technology
Are
field.
you?
Yes. Although, some things I don't know any better about. We talked about these iPhones, and I was bitching about it last week, I guess, a little bit. So
were you?
I was.
Yeah,
I complained a little bit about
it. That they take amazing photographs.
Yeah, they do pretty good with that. It's pretty surprising. And the video ain't too shabby either.
That's right.
So if we go out and do car videos, should we use the iPhone?
Oh,
or
that's
GoPro?
a good question.
Yeah.
I mean, people produce movies on iPhones. They really do. I know Apple promotes it but
right.
they're actually being done.
By the way, that's next. We're going to create a movie of my life.
Okay.
Be like 11 minutes long.
You getting into picking one of your 7 cars. What is it today?
What am I going to drive today?
To work.
Well, it's usually the same thing. It's the SUV that gets the nod. I tried to talk my wife into buying another, almost a throwaway car. So when you're driving down the street and all that salt and rock stuff are coming up into your wheel wells, and it's cringeworthy of any car. It just makes you nuts, and I don't understand why they put so much of that down and on the roads and all that. And I'm not going to get too deep into that, but I want to get a car that I don't care so much about,
right? That
we can just drive and not worry if it gets salt or sand or snow or rain or whatever up underneath it. People don't realize, why don't you drive your car in the rain? It's not because of the rain falling down on the car. It's the stuff that's on the road. Now it's liquid and it sprays up underneath and it gets caught in the cracks and crevices and
makes a mess of things.
It makes a mess of things. So we don't want to make a mess of things. So anyway, welcome to the show number 126, recording on January 31st of 2024 to air first time February 3rd, 2024. And boy, oh boy, have we been busy. It has been one of the busiest weeks we've had in a long, long, long time.
Once that snowstorm cleared out of here, then it just...
And then, of course, Barrett-Jackson auction just ended on television. And not only just Barrett-Jackson, but RM and Gooding and all the others that have auctions in Scottsdale during this time. Barrett-Jackson being the most prominent, I guess you could say. It's probably more watched than some of the others, because the others you have to actually go to their website and click on their YouTube link or whatever to see the thing, whereas Barrett-Jackson is actually on... FYI channel, and then the finale is on History Channel.
Is that where it is?
Yeah. You couldn't find it?
I couldn't find it.
Did you have some? Do you not pay for the History Channel?
I don't know what we have. I told you I got 400 channels and nothing's on. That's Bruce Springsteen once sang.
And the funny thing about that is there is a ton of stuff on. If you could go back and blink your eyes to 1968, and you could have the choices that you have today, my goodness, you'd never leave your TV. There'd be so much to watch.
That's pretty much the plan of the entertainment industry, by the way.
I think so.
That we never leave the house and we eat our Twinkies.
Anyway, thanks to the Pat Travers Band for our theme music, which we love to hear every morning, and it gets us going.
It does.
Right?
It does.
It's the fuel.
It's the energy.
Yeah, it's the energy that we need. And don't forget, if you've got any questions or anything, or want to know more about what we're doing here, classicautomall.com is our website. And if you want to send a email to us here directly at the podcast, it's podcast@classicautomall.com.
Right.
And you can sign up for our website easily for our newsletter easily on our website. So cars sold this week. Where did they go? Don't sound so engaged.
Because I know it's a long list coming.
It's a long one coming. It's a very long one, and I'll skewer a few of these. I'm certain of that. So, how about 26 cars sold? We sold last week.
Wow.
Yeah. Wrightsville, Pennsylvania, Coatesville, Pennsylvania, Shelton, Connecticut, Media, Pennsylvania, Orrville, Ohio, New Holland, Pennsylvania, Pottstown, Pennsylvania, Hamburg, Pennsylvania, Windermere, Florida, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, Abington, Pennsylvania, Oxford, Pennsylvania, Mercerville, New Jersey, Sykesville, Maryland, Apodaca, Netherlands, I don't know where that is. Delavan, Wisconsin, Everett, Washington, Richmond, Texas, Forest Heights, Maryland, West Union, Ohio, Charlotte, North Carolina, Dryden, New York, Pottsville, Pennsylvania, Santa Ana, California, and Anderson, South Carolina.
Good God.
Is that crazy?
1, 2, 3,
but a lot
4,
in Pennsylvania.
5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 states, one extra country. And anyway, yeah, that's incredible.
Yeah.
What was that?
I don't know. That was some kind of code he's trying to send to you, and he'll tell you later.
He was excited because of all the countries that we're reaching.
No, I just couldn't hear myself, and then I heard myself.
Well, that's part of it. Sometimes I can turn you off. I have a little switch down here that if I decide I just want to turn you off.
You know what? Bruce Springsteen once says, not to quote Bruce again,
twice,
but he said, if you make more than $500 a night, you're going to have more than $500 a night problems.
Right.
All this technology
creates that.
Bound to have something go wrong.
Yeah.
Same with the car with all the computers.
Exactly.
Something bound to go wrong.
We got cords going everywhere and things happen.
My mic is...
and we're like, all right, let's start this recorder. These mics here, this sound thing. We got the Zoom thing today. We got a special guest. I know you're excited about this. We're all excited.
Yeah, we're very excited about our special guest today. Famous race car driver that's going to be on the show with us in segment 2 and 3, and maybe 4 if he decides he wants to stick around.
Okay.
I certainly have plenty to talk about as usual.
Yes.
I have my notes. I've done my homework, and I think he's probably popped in, so we'll talk to him in the next segment. Anyway, some of the new inventory. Oh, how many cars do we have in inventory right now?
I don't know, but I'm going to guess.
Don't guess too high, because then it makes me look stupid.
1175.
No.
I mean, 1070. Sorry.
Thank you.
1075.
1069.
There you go.
So we've had some cars that have been terminated because they needed to be repaired. And usually this is the time when people will take their cars out for a couple of weeks to repair them and to fix something and to do something that needs to be done. And it's a good time for that, they think. But they could be incorrect because we sell more in January than just about any other month of the year. So January and February are really good months for us. I think people are pent up at home, thinking about spring, thinking about summer, ready to, pull the trigger on something. And of course, this is a good time to do it. So if you're thinking about taking your car out for a repair, now may not be the best time. Maybe better right in the middle of summer.
Yeah, that's right.
So you never know.
That's interesting. It's counter to what people would think.
Most people think, well, I can't tell you how many times we get somebody who calls up and says, hey, I want to bring you my convertible, but I'm going to wait till the spring or summer. I go, it's spring or summer somewhere all the time. It's either Arizona or California, and we sell a lot of cars to California. Now, we didn't have but one or two on the list this week, or one in Santa Ana, but
let's not forget South America
and all the other country and places that we sell cars. So pickup trucks don't only sell in the fall, and convertibles don't always sell in the spring anymore. It's a whole different world and a different animal.
What's the weather like in the Netherlands right now? I don't know. No clue. Is it wintertime?
Is that where the volcano is, or is that Iceland?
Please stop asking questions I don't know the answer to. You can only ask questions that you know for certain that I know what the answer is.
I'm not a lawyer. Lawyers only ask questions they know the answer to.
Geographic questions are off limits.
I know that the RM auction is on right now, and it started at 4 p.m. CET time, Central Europe time, I guess, and that's 10 a.m. here. So they're selling cars in Paris, and they're speaking a language I'm not familiar with. So anyway, some of the new inventory in. This one is a great car. This 1968 Ford Mustang High Country Special. This thing is so cool. Built as a specialty edition for Colorado, which they did back in the day. They would build special editions for just certain areas. And this one is the High Country Special. It's candy apple red over red. It's got a Concours restoration. It's got its AACA Senior and Grand National wins. It's got the Deluxe Marty Report, the J Code 302, and it's one of 251 built.
Wow.
And which can be a problem because there's rare and then there's desirable.
Right.
And just because something's rare doesn't mean that anybody knows about it or has any idea that it even existed.
True.
So, but this is a really well done car. And then, of course, the opposite to this, we have a 2008 Ford Mustang GT California Special.
CS.
The CS. And it's performance white over black and gray. This one's got 27,000 actual miles. Think about that. That car is 2008 is 16 years old.
Perfect. Garage Queen.
Garage Queen. Tremec manual, 4.6 liter, 3-valve V8, 27,000 original miles. And the California Special They were going to make 5,000 of them, but for some reason they only made 4,118.
They ran out of money.
They ran out of money, or tires, or wheels, or maybe the badges or the grill or something. I don't know what they ran out of something. So anyway, really two interesting cars. Another great car we just got in is the '77 Pontiac Grand Prix. This one's black on black. Have you seen this car?
Of course.
You're such a bad liar.
I sat in it.
61.
That's illegal.
Yeah, you're not allowed to do that. Did you have a car specialist with you?
Exactly.
I had my classic Auto Mall shirt on.
Well, there you go.
Well, anybody could buy one of those.
Yeah.
Oh, that's true.
By the way, we have a
we do right out here. We have
hats and shirts
There's
available.
a showcase just like Disney World. You walk out and you could buy a shirt on your way.
right.
Hat.
Make them exit through the gift shop. We used to always do that in the music business and the theater business back in the day.
That's right.
Anyway, the Grand Prix, Starlight black over black, 61,000 original miles. It's got the 301 V8, which is we would call the Malaise era, which is not a whole lot of power. But it's funny. We talk about the 301 cubic inch V8 is not much of a motor, but how about a 289 Ford motor, or how about a 302? Those were healthy motors, so it wasn't like. A 301 could be, that's just, but for some reason in General Motors parlance, the 301 and the 305 are considered like, not very, but then the Ford 302 or the 289 are considered, high performance motors. The DZ 302 might be the exception to the rule on a 69 C28.
Right. I think cubic inches has less to do with it than compression ratios and cams and things like that.
Well, think about when Ford was running in IMSA back in the day, and they were taking those little 4-cylinders and getting like 900 horsepower out of a 4-cylinder engine.
Incredible.
So, I mean, it's pretty amazing. Next on the list, a 72 Honda 600. Now, this is not a motorcycle.
No, almost.
It's like a roller skate.
It's so cool.
Tiny. It's very cool, though. Blue over black, 598 cc's.
I think that's technically makes it a micro car, does it? I think the CC's anything below 750.
Anything. I think
really
750 becomes that. So 4-speed manual. When this came out, a gallon of gas was 36 cents in 1972, and then of course it went to like $1.19 in 1980, which was a significant jump, and now it's I don't even know how much is gas now.
Well, it's anywhere between $3.50 and $4.50, something like that.
But I'm as low as $3.19 actually.
Could you give us that address, please, JR?
Yes, I will.
Morgantown. By the way,
Audubon, PA.
By the way, I'm doing these write-ups and everything. Right. I found that in 1940, milk was 54 cents, but gas was 18 cents. So milk was more expensive than gas. Now it's about the same, about $4.50.
But people use that argument, and here's the argument that I'll come back to yet. You can't use a gallon of milk in a day, much less a week.
That's true.
Whereas you're going to go through 10 or 15 gallons of gas in a day.
I'm just saying the price discrepancy in 1940. Now milk and gas are about the same.
Well, what about $4. A pound of bacon? It's not even a pound anymore, and it's like $10, and it's like less than a pound, like 3/4 of a pound. So. You got me started on this. I'm sorry.
I'm watching the clock.
Poor little piggies.
Great, thanks. 69 Plymouth Barracuda Fastback, scorch red over red, 340 cubic inch V8, bumper to bumper resto. This thing is really, really cool. Those are kind of underappreciated, but that's a really well done car.
Yeah, they're making a comeback, I think. And back in the day, I remember in my neighborhood, someone had it. It was just a daily driver.
Yeah, it was just a car.
Crazy.
Yeah, and then last but not least, the 57 Chevrolet Bel Air convertible, Matador red over red and silver, very highly optioned car, near flawless restoration. The dual quad 283 3-speed manual, which is unusual with a manual transmission. A lot of people built them with the 2-speed Power Glide or the 2-speed or they maybe put a 3-speed turbo hydromatic in them. But they were talk about iconic. I mean, if you say classic car in the dictionary, you might look and there would be a picture of a 57 Bel Air.
Absolutely.
And they still sell well. They're not bringing the numbers that they used to bring, but I saw a bunch on barret-jackson, and they were mostly resto mods this year. There weren't very many original, and that is the case with a lot of vehicles that they were running out there, whether it's Corvettes or Bel Airs or Mustangs or Broncos. And I mean, the Broncos and Blazers were unbelievable.
Still hot.
$200,000 and $300,000.
It's incredible.
They had a K10 pickup truck that brought $300,000 at barret-jackson. I mean, hard to believe.
We've got less expensive K10s here at Classic Auto.
Although
check out our inventory.
Our customers may be calling up and saying, "Hey, I'm going to raise the price on mine a little bit." So we like to go the other way. When you call us up, we like you to lower your price, not raise your price. So we'll try it at any price. That's what we say. We're
Equal opportunity.
Equal opportunity pricing on that. If you tell us you think your car is worth X amount of dollars, then we'll try it for 90 days at that price. Mm-hmm. And then we're going to say, I told you.
Didn't work.
We're going to have to lower the price a little bit.
A little bit.
Yep. Not a lot. You don't want to lower it too much. It's incremental,
That's right.
You know, so, but anyway, some of the new inventory, you can see all of it at classicautomall.com on our website. And coming up, we've got a fantastic guest who looks like he's online already. So when we come back from the break, we'll surprise you with a guest via Zoom on the Classic Auto Mall podcast. We'll see you in a minute.
Whether you want to buy or sell a classic, collectible, or special interest vehicle, you need to visit the Classic Auto Mall website for more information. If you're looking to buy, you can easily search our inventory of more than 1,000 vehicles on the web at classicautomall.com.
And we're back with the Classic Auto Mall podcast from the Classic Auto Mall studio in Morgantown, Pennsylvania, talking to our new friend and special guest of the day, Scott Pruett. Good morning, Scott.
Good morning. How you guys doing?
We're doing great. I'm sorry to make you get up so early. 11 o'clock for us is early. So,
well, we're West Coast time,
right?
But I'm a farmer. Having the Vineyard winery, I'm up early every morning. Plus, I just got home from Daytona, so I think I'm still on East Coast time.
Yeah, exactly.
So I was up about 4 o'clock California time, which that's 7 o'clock East.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's all okay.
Exciting finish to the 24-hour race. Penske won again first time since 1969. Is that right?
So it was exciting seeing, Roger Penske hadn't been to victory lane since the 60s, which is hard to believe.
Right.
And Porsche overall. And so it was a great show. Record crowds. I was down there for Lexus as I'm ambassador for them, down there for Rolex, same ambassador for them, as well as I did some work with IMSA and some work with the track. So it was a busy weekend, record crowds,
nice.
Great race, great finish, and more importantly, it was great weather. We've seen some pretty challenging cold weather the last 4 or 5 years,
sure.
And so kind of all the way around, it was an absolute fantastic weekend.
Yeah, people don't realize that northern Florida can get some snow and wind and cold. So it's not just perfect Florida weather year-round down there. The great thing about the Simeone Museum, we were just talking about the 2023 Spirit of Competition Award. I mean, it's basically honoring individuals who significantly shaped and impacted the world of racing. And it's been past recipients are Mario Andretti, David Hobbs, Hurley Haywood, Roger Penske, obviously, Richard Petty, Janet Guthrie. It's a real honor, and it's such a neat place, and it's so many people are not familiar with the Simeone Museum. And then, of course, when you take them there, they're blown away to see an as-raced Cobra Daytona just sitting there, just hanging out.
It was absolutely wonderful for me. And again, as a racer, you appreciate these cars, and you appreciate the heritage, and what it's been like to the effort and commitment by sponsors and teams and drivers to be able to get to victory lane,
right,
and to have some of those achievements is pretty special to see those cars over that many years. I just was saying, I think, I'm partial to that, the 917 hippie car.
Oh yeah.
It was just such an iconic car for me personally, not only as what its achievement is, but also as Hot Wheels and all these models growing up with. It's a lot of wonderful things to see.
Absolutely, and it's funny. I read something somewhere you were talking about the difference between even the 962 and today's modern race cars. I mean, there's a whole lot of driver aids that you didn't have back in the day. It's like the Ford GT when it first came out didn't have traction control and a lot of those things when the second generation when they came out, and guys bought them.
Right.
And they got out of their Ferrari with traction control and got into the Ford GT and did a 180 on the on-ramp and went, oh.
Yep.
And those things tanked for a while. They were you couldn't give them away. I mean, the difference between a 962 and a modern-day Porsche that won Daytona today, they're night and day difference, right?
They are. And when you look the difference between a 962 and a 963, which is a nomenclature, the newest one,
right?
They're night and day. Whether you talk about, it's always great going back to Daytona. That's the one race I do go and do a year, not only because of my relationships with Rolex and Lexus and going there to work for them and talk to their customers and groups, but also everybody who's anybody goes to Daytona, and catching up with whether it's different manufacturers I've driven for over the years, a lot of great friends, a lot of great teams, and some of the past drivers. So this year was down there catching up with a number of guys, and so when you look at what that looks like with those cars, when you talk about the 962, and I raced there multiple times. My first overall win, first overall IMSA prototype win, came in a 962 in 1986, driving with Bob Wallach.
Wow.
You had to use a clutch every shift because of synchronous transmission. You had to, it's an H pattern, so you had to be real, very deliberate on your shifts. No ABS, so you're managing all the brakes and managing how much separation between the front and the rear, so you're not locking fronts nor you're locking rears. There was always something with the car that you had to manage. Even things like the defroster. We didn't have a defroster, so if it was raining, it was exactly. You had a rag on the end of a stick that you got out there with.
I love it.
You had a windshield wiper, and 50% of the time after you use a windshield wiper for a while, it'd fall off.
Right.
So now, fast forward to modern day, the halogen headlight technology, the paddle shift, you do not miss a shift up and down. ABS, you don't have to worry. I mean, the computers are managing that. Traction control, and not only traction control, but also what you call it is stability control. So they're looking at the amount of traction you're getting in yaw, and you can set that moment, and you can do it turn to turn to turn to turn. We map the whole track now, and so we can have this stuff integrate wherever we want. So from a driver's standpoint, what you have to manage, what you have to take care of, what you have to focus on is significantly different. And I think that is one of those arguments that you have. How much do you leave in the driver's hand?
Right.
The technology is good, especially as we go out and jump into our production car. Anybody listening to this right now, they have, I'm sure, some sort of a fun, cool car that they enjoy driving every day that has the ability to have paddle shift and halogen technology on the headlights, and they can even track into the turn. So you can, as the wheel turns, you get the headlights to turn and look at the apexes. So it's great technology, and I think it's made the cars that we drive every day so much better. But then how much do we leave in the driver's hand when you go out and actually go into competition?
Well, how is it that Max Verstappen arguably is, at the time or now, one of the greatest drivers that's, driving currently, not the number one sim driver, it's some kid in his basement can beat him in lap times of that, which is interesting to see that happen.
It is. And I was, I was one of the first guys that developed the sim. 2012, 2013, with a guy down at Sonoma Raceway. He could write code. So we were able to develop stuff. And I showed it to Ford. I showed it to TRD. I showed it to GM. And initially their thoughts was, this stuff's, this is a toy. This is a game. It's arcade.
Right.
One, I'm glad it didn't catch on as early, because I had that I would consider unfair advantage for a while.
Sure.
Because in developing that, I think that was one of the things that helped me way into my 50s, still have all the successes I did, all the winning of the races and championships at into my 50s, which is unheard of.
Right.
And now we see, fast forward to where we are now, where those simulators, $10, $15 million sims, and what they do, how they do it, how they're mapping the cars, how they develop the cars. Now it's a lot more affordable, and with all the restrictions with testing, they've had to come up with these other opportunities, and through sim now, whether it's driven by a manufacturer, which is tens of millions of dollars, or whether it's by the kid in the basement that spent $5,000, $10,000 on a system, and going out and arguably doing and getting a lot of that experience.
Yeah. And of course, you and I both know that racing on a sim and racing in real life is night and day difference. You couldn't put the kid on the sim in a real race car, and he would probably struggle to be successful in it, or to even be competitive in it. It's a different world when you've got the elements, the heat, the smell, the sounds, the sun, the guy right up on your rear. I mean, it's a whole different animal. So people don't always realize that.
That's for sure. And I can tell you right now, it does not hurt when you crash. Guaranteed. I've broke so many things over the years racing. Right. I have not broken one thing when I've crashed on my sim.
My son gets mad at me. We have a little sim game in our basement, and I'll be drinking a glass of wine driving, and he'll go, "You can't do that." I go, "Yes, I can. I'm having fun."
Of course I can.
It's my sim. It's my racetrack. I can do whatever the heck I want. Let's talk about real quickly, briefly, not briefly, but the numbers. How many overall IMSA wins have you had? 5? Is that correct?
So I have at Daytona. Mm-hmm. Let's just talk about the Rolex 24 hour. Just finished it last weekend. I have raced that race 24 times.
Wow.
Of those 24 times, I've won it in class 10, which is record.
Right.
Overall 5, which is tied with Hurley.
Right.
And I finished second 7 times.
Wow.
It's crazy.
So the question begs, that's the most important question I'm going to ask you. How many Rolex Daytonas do you have?
I have, well, we talked about that on a broadcast over the weekend.
Right.
And it's kind of a shocking number between the 10 wins.
Right.
And then Rolex sponsored the IMSA series for 6 years, and I won 5 of those championships. And for winning that, you won another Rolex Daytona.
Right.
And then Grand Marshal, and then Rolex has given me one when I retired.
Right.
So I've only bought 2 of them of I think 17.
Right.
All of them have something really cool on the back. My recent one is probably the most exclusive Rolex Daytona that you can buy. I worked with the Rolex people saying, which one is most difficult?
Right.
Because of all my wins, let's make this something significant.
Sure.
And so it's a white gold with a meteorite face. And then on the back, they have Scott Pruett winner. And they have all the years that I won that race.
Man.
So it's pretty cool.
So when you say meteorite face, you don't mean meteorite some kind of silvery color. You mean an actual meteorite material, right?
It is. They're not. They discontinued them.
Right.
I got one of the last ones that was ever built, and it's pretty. It's pretty cool.
That's pretty darn cool. Well, that's always the thing that motivated me. I always thought back when I was watching the 24 Hours of Daytona, I was like, boy, I'd like to win that so I could get that watch. That was what we always thought. Of course, back then, I think when I first started watching, you could get a Rolex Daytona would be about $1,200 maybe back in the day. And you think, oh, that's a lot of money. And of course you look back now and you think, oh my God, that's nothing. So, well, congratulations to you on that and all your wins. Now, not only have you won at the Daytona 24, the Rolex 24, but how many IMSA wins have you had? Have you had, I read 60 wins in IMSA?
60 wins, 9 championships in IMSA. 3 championships in Trans-Am, but 9 championships in IMSA.
Right.
Which is, I've been, the good Lord blessed me with an incredible career.
Right.
50 years of racing. I've driven for almost every manufacturer.
Right.
I've had, obviously with that many years of racing, broke a lot of things, but, I've just been so blessed to have such a long career in racing and such a successful career in racing. And I just, I thank the good Lord for that. I mean, it's been absolutely fantastic.
Yeah. It's been fun to watch your career. And of course you've done open wheel racing too. And probably the most exciting race, in the history of IndyCar or any racing was your finish in 1995 at Michigan.
Yeah.
I mean, the adrenaline going through you at that moment must have been, I know you talk about this a lot and have talked about this a lot, but it's interesting because I watched it recently and the announcer second guessed your early move when you were coming around Little Al and you just did it. You knew the timing was right.
There was a lot that went into that. You knew you didn't want to lead on the last lap. That's for sure, because of the draft, because of what was taking place. And so here we are, we're coming off of, we're going in turn 3, turn 4, Little Al's right on me. We exit turn 4. He goes down. I actually just let him go. So he passes me for the lead. White flags flying, passes me for the lead. We roll into turn 1. And in my mind, I know exactly what I would do if somebody's behind me. So that's what I figured little Al would do. So as we go down the back straight, he's trying to shake me loose. So you see these guys weaving like this. Yeah. That means they're trying to break the draft as much as they can. And so I fake down to the left, the inside. I know he's going to counter. So he does that. As soon as he counters, I already have a bit of a run. And I go right up onto his corner because I knew my car worked really good on the high side, 3 and 4.
Right.
And so for me, it was checkers or wreckers. Either I was going to crash or I was going to come out on top. And fortunately, it was the latter of the two. And it's still this day one of the closest finishes in IndyCar history.
Oh man, it's so fantastic to watch that and to see that happen. And of course, those Penske cars, were those Mercedes powered then? Was that earlier that they were Mercedes powered?
That was earlier.
Okay.
Yeah. But they were still. Oh my gosh, the Penske organization is fantastic, and when you're competing with whether it was Little Al or Emerson or whoever was driving for Roger, Danny Sullivan, when I first stepped in, arguably one of the best teams year over year in the industry, still to this day.
Sure.
It never comes easy, no. And if you can beat them, it's pretty sweet.
That picture of Roger sitting at that big table with all those 18 now, was it 18 or 19 Indy 500 win trophies? My God,
yeah,
that's impressive.
That's crazy.
That'll give you a little goosebumps, won't it?
I think even to this day, it rates as one of the highest rated IndyCar races for viewership.
Yeah, it was incredible. I mean, I remember it back in the day, and I don't remember many races. I'm not like. I guess you probably can remember details of most every race that you ran in. And if you're a spectator, you don't always remember the details like you do if you were participating in it. But it was so exciting to watch. And of course, Lil Al there was 3 or 4 cars in between you guys. They're coming down. He's thinking, oh, he's going to walk away with this. And boy, he had some power that day.
Yeah. It was, you look back at those great races, whether it was all the wins at Daytona, winning at Watkins Glen, winning at Le Mans, and especially, winning at Le Mans with Corvette, with the factory Corvette program, the first win that they ever had at Le Mans, being part of that, racing down in Australia, winning down there, up in Canada, at these great iconic racetracks. And so you look back now, they have retired, and a lot of people ask me, what's my favorite race? What's my favorite win? What's my favorite car? What's it? All those questions. And looking back, I've just been, again, just so blessed to get to race all those great tracks and win. The only place I have this love-hate relationship is Indianapolis Motor Speedway.
Right. Yeah.
I've raced Indy cars there. I raced NASCAR there. Right. I raced sports cars there. I've got a few second places, and that's one of the only tracks I didn't get to victory lane.
Wow, that's hard to believe, isn't it? And that's one where was it your goal to be great at Indy, or was that just another cog in the wheel, if you will?
Oh yeah, whatever I was doing at the time, I wanted to be the best. So 10 years of Indy cars, doing sports cars, so you could go race at Daytona, race at Sebring, and still do the full IndyCar series. So that's how a lot of these guys, you look at the race over the weekend, you had Formula One guys there. You had Formula One drivers and IndyCar drivers and NASCAR drivers and all the great sports car drivers from around the world that want to come participate. And that is, arguably Daytona kicks off everything for motorsports every year.
Absolutely.
And it gives the opportunity because for the most part now, you have 4 drivers for every team. So as a driver, that is that race you want to go race. And if you get to victory lane, guess what you get?
Yeah, exactly. So you get a nice kiss from a pretty girl and a Rolex watch, right?
Yeah. Forget the girl. It's all about the watch.
Yeah. I'll take the watch any day over that. So in open wheel racing, obviously a whole different animal. You can't rub up against somebody quite like you can in NASCAR or in even sports cars, which you don't see as much, obviously. But is open wheel racing that much more difficult, or is it basically all pretty much the same?
Well, every car ever race is difficult and challenging in its own way. So when people say, what was your favorite series? I said, I love them all. I said, for going fast, there was nothing like driving an Indy car. And I remember, and maybe you remember as well. So through the 90s, mid 90s, where my era was, you had tire wars, you had chassis wars, and you had engine wars.
Right.
Which meant you had really sticky tires. You had continually new updates for the chassis. We had more downforce and less drag, and then every race you had new engines that had more horsepower, and we were turning engines to now these are just overhead cam, V8, about three. I think they're 3.2 liter, and we were turning them to 18,500 RPM.
How's that even possible?
And so we had a qualifying engine. I know we had a practice engine, a qualifying engine that was literally good for 15 laps.
Sure.
And then we had the race engine. We got around, so Phoenix, we get around 1 mile oval, and we get around that thing in just under 20 seconds. So like 19.8. We'd roll into turn one about 212 miles an hour, going through 1, 2, and then you never actually had to lift in 3 and 4, and we were pulling 5 Gs lateral.
Wow.
A true 5 Gs lateral.
Wow.
Now, how do you put that in perspective? The highest performing cars on the road today, you think of what are those best cars, and that best performance, it's slightly over 1 G, absolute best. So multiply that by 5.
So I read something interesting.
Pretty crazy.
Yeah, something interesting you said is that in a Trans-Am car, you could brake at marker 4 or 5. In a Formula One car, you can go past marker 1 and brake and still be in good shape to make the turn. Is that true? Is that really that much difference in the braking?
It is, and a lot of that's physics. When you look at how much downforce you generate, and the tires, and there probably isn't that much differential now, but in days gone by there was that much differential. And it's just when I went and tested, so it was in the late 80s. I went to Europe. Tested with the Lola factory team, Gerard Larousse. And when you've gone from arguably in those days, I think we were about 2,500 pounds.
Right.
And then you get into a 1,200 pound, and you're producing 5,000 pounds of downforce, and you have carbon fiber brakes, and the tires are bigger. All those things let you be a lot more aggressive.
Sure.
Not only how deep you get into the brake zone, but how fast the cars react, and then when you can tip right back into the throttle.
Sure. It's amazing to watch the Formula One drivers nowadays, how fast and how late they go in and brake. And then even then there'll be a guy who goes even further and deeper in, and the one guy's braking and the other guy's still not touched his brakes on it. And of course they have those trickery little brake lights in the back that, you think they're braking and they're not. That's a psychological thing, right? I know what they're up to.
Well, it all goes back to a lot of that. When you get around a Formula One car now, they're huge. I mean, they're really big, and they're almost, you look at Monaco, and the cars, in my view, are too, and you can even talk to the drivers.
Sure.
They're too big.
Right.
I mean, they're too big for the track that they race at Monaco years and years and years.
Sure.
And when you stand next to them, so they've moved from 1,200 pounds and they're almost 2,000 pounds now. So it's a big difference. And again, arguably, you talked about this earlier on, how much of that technology is driven by the team and setting the car up, and how they change things with the car, all driven through computers. And then how much do we leave in a driver's hand? There's always going to be that.
Sure.
I think that argument, figuring out which I always think, put it in driver's hand. Cream's always going to rise to the top.
Absolutely. Absolutely. When you were growing up, who was the drivers that you were watching and loving and paying attention to? Mario, Lauda. I think, I tell everybody my all-time, hero was Dan Gurney. I had the chance to
when I was a kid, just trying to make my way up, spend some, get his autograph, spend some time with him. He was great to visit. And I mean, even, in that era when he's racing, and I saw him at, I think, Laguna Seca. And for him to spend a little bit of time with a go-kart driver, this little kid just trying to make his way up.
Sure.
And not all drivers would do that. Right. I got to tell you, when I met Lauda, it was okay. When I met Mario for the first time.
Sure.
But when I met Dan for the first time, it was absolutely the time he spent and what he did. He again, NASCAR, IndyCar, Formula One, all those different things that he did. I was hopeful just to emulate just a little of what he did on the track, but also off the track.
Sure. Yeah, being a good person. I mean, I'll never forget, I ran into Roger Penske coming out of the bathroom at the Detroit Auto Show, and he stopped and talked to me for 10 or 15 minutes. I mean, I'm just nobody. I'm just some guy who's walking out of the bathroom at the same time he is. And we had this nice conversation, and he was very cordial and humble and nice. And it's like refreshing that somebody who you kind of look up to acts like they're normal.
I sent him, and this is the guy, right? So we're there last year. We're doing a Lexus performance driving school, and you felt like Lexus owned the track. Every monitor had Lexus on it. The track was all laid out, and they put Lexus multiple places. The way they treated us, the way they took care of us. And so I got on and I texted Roger, "Hey, Roger, really appreciate what your team is doing here. The track is fantastic. The facility is fantastic. You're making us feel absolutely like there's no other car manufacturer here. It's all about us." And so I sent that off to him, and within 3 minutes, I get a note back from him.
Wow.
"Scott, great hearing from you. Thank you for the note. We're trying hard to make Indianapolis Motor Speedway the way it needs to be."
Yeah. I mean, who else?
But that's how Roger is. That's that guy.
Who else could have bought the Indianapolis Motor Speedway other than him, right? I mean, if you want it to go in good hands, it's like when you get rid of a dog. You want to make sure it goes to a good family, I think Roger's good family for the Indy 500. So do you still watch racing on TV at all, or are you too busy doing your winery thing?
Well, I'll watch races. I watch them probably more because of my relationship with Lexus. I pay attention to what they're doing, how they qualify. I have a lot of friends out there, so I'm continually watching them, like Scott Dixon and Alex Palou and where it's on the IndyCar side, NASCAR side, sports car side, whoever. I'm watching those guys all the time. But I don't sit and watch a race. Right. I'll watch it on my phone or watch it on my computer. I'll see what's going on, and then I'll see the results. And because I'm telling you, man, it's hard to want to get behind the wheel again. It's tempting. Right. I mean, I talked 50 years, and I've been so blessed with that. Kind of like an alcoholic not taking his next drink. I don't want to get sucked back into that rabbit hole. Yeah. Because you wouldn't do just one race. Oh, well, I'll just do this race and maybe this. And pretty soon you're sucked back in. But also my adrenaline level goes up. And just being at Daytona over the weekend. Sure. They say, just everybody's on the grid and all the excitement, and then gentlemen start, and I start breaking out in sweat, and my heart rate is racing. And
heck yeah! So when you got to blow,
let me go.
I'll take it, coach. Let me in. So when you want to blow the cobwebs out, what do you go jump in now? What do you have sitting around the house that you go get in and just go haul ass around California?
Well, I think one, I'm so excited to have the relationship with Lexus. So I host all the Lexus Performance Driving Schools. So we do Road Atlanta, we do Sonoma, we do Road America, we do Watkins Glen, we do COTA, we do Indianapolis. And so believe me, I'm spending some time behind the wheel. Good. Developing those cars and making sure they're set up just right, or getting my own adrenaline fix, probably the latter.
Yeah, I hear you.
And then I also help Lexus develop new product coming, so that opportunity to legally speed and get my adrenaline fix has been great with that relationship with Lexus. And then I have some old cars. I'm an old rod guy, so I got a 55 Chevy Pro Street. I got a 60 Caddy convertible. I have a 67 VW van, all redone, 4-wheel disc brakes. 2300 cc engine in it, so it goes over 50 miles an hour. You can roll down the freeway pretty well. I just bought a new, I don't know if you heard of the Toyota Corolla GR.
Yeah.
It's a broad rally car. Pretty much like, competitor, everybody has an all-wheel drive and a lot of horsepower and fun to drive and all the latest, greatest, control systems on, so you can go out and have fun. So, not that I would ever speed unlegally.
No,
I just want to say that.
I understand.
Give that qualifier, right?
So, were you involved in the LFA?
So I launched ISF, which was the first ever performance vehicle from Lexus.
That was the little smaller.
Behind that was the LFA.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the LFA came next, still the only true Japanese supercar to date.
Right.
And spent a bunch of time with the designer engineer, which was Naruse's son. Unfortunately, he was killed at Nürburgring.
Oh, wow.
Shortly after we launched LFA. And it's been amazing. Like when we first came out with that car, and it was probably because it was Japanese and it was Lexus, nobody gave it the respect that it deserved, because it was fantastic.
Yeah.
I drove it hard. I gave very fast rides. Everybody who went for a ride, we did a program on the oval at Las Vegas, and every person who went for a ride with me joined the over 185 mile an hour club. And this is just a stock Lexus, right? Just out of the pits, down the back straight, through 3 and 4, by the start finish, 1, 2, and then into the pits. So it wasn't a very long lap. Just one after another, after another, after another. And now you see in all the auctions and all the sales of what's happening with the LFA, I think one just sold over the Nürburgring sold for 1.9 million, something like that.
1.8 million. And in 2012, I remember in Fort Lauderdale, the one sold for $312,000, and they struggled to get that for it.
Right.
So yeah.
So it's good. I knew that car was special. My only disappointment is I didn't buy one.
Or you didn't get given one. You should. I think that somebody should call them and say, "Hey, he should have had one, and now you need to give him one now." So, do you?
Yeah, exactly.
What's the future of cars look like? Are internal combustion engines gone, whether we like it or not?
Well, Stewart, that's the $1,000 question, and I think we all have our own view. What is my view? No, I think the electrification from the start, I didn't agree with. I don't agree with. Right. I think what everybody wants to believe, this carbon footprint, when you really peel back the onion and you look from mining lithium and cobalt and all these semi-precious metals that have to go into a battery, and you really look at what that looks like. You look at the weight of a battery. You look at the length and life of a battery. You look what happens to a battery if you get into an accident, and how much it costs to have to get the whole thing replaced because it doesn't work anymore. You look at the challenges of what we saw in Chicago earlier this year, where batteries don't charge and cars die and are sitting alongside the road and you can't do anything with them. You look at the infrastructure needed for all these charging stations. Where are they going to come from? And who's going to put all that money in it? And where's the power going to come from?
Right.
A lot of it comes from natural gas. A lot of it comes from coal. So I think I'm not going to say electrification is a fad. I don't see that. I love hybrid. Sure. So what we're seeing you get something for nothing. You have a small battery pack. You're using the brake and coasting as this opportunity to recharge.
Yeah, absolutely.
Easy. I mean, it's perfect. You look at the carbon footprint to build a hybrid, and you can build 90 hybrids for one full electric.
Right.
And that was a study that Toyota did, actually.
Right.
And I think there's some opportunity out there with synthetic fuel. I think there's opportunity out there with hydrogen. I like hydrogen a lot.
Yep.
They're moving away from full electrification.
For sure, already.
If you actually go and you talk to Mercedes and you talk to Porsche and you talk to these other, whoever manufacturer that you like, and really ask them how many full electric cars they're selling, and if they gave me an honest answer, they say, not as many as we want.
Yeah.
And we're trying to figure out how to sell them because we can't.
Yeah. You know, people literally think that batteries make power. Like somehow a battery makes power and it doesn't require an external source to make the power that gives it the power. Batteries are just holders of power. So, you know, people are confused by that, and people just read headlines anyway. So, you know, is what it is.
Yeah.
So,
is what it is.
Yeah.
So,
and one of my favorite sayings, it's like, whatever. Oh, I hate that word, but it's so true and it's so appropriate sometimes. So how's the wine business going? I got to say, when we were at Simeone and we're sampling your wines, you and I were sampling, I remember standing there with you, and you were telling me about the process. Man, oh man, you produce some great stuff. This is not just, you know, box wine. This is some serious wine.
So thank you. And the difference is, you know, so you have all these athletes, whether it's drivers, football players, tennis players, golfers who've gotten involved in the wine business. And it's more that they have their name on the label. There's very, very few of us that actually know the process, let alone do the process. And I'm that guy. So I'm the winemaker. I'm the guy in the vineyard. I'm the, you know, cellar rat. And arguably our business, the main critic and most respected critic called Wine Spectator. And year over year, we're typically 93, 94 points. We're 95 points. We're upwards of 96. We've been tied for the highest rated Syrah in all of California multiple times. We were tied for the third highest rated Syrah in the world by Wine Spectator.
Wow.
Back in 2012, 2014. And so not only it's unique that I'm making this wine, but also that we've been able to achieve these accolades, which has been far beyond my expectation.
Sure.
You know, we started, so the name of the vineyard's Pruett Vineyard, you know, original, right?
And, but it's a good name. Pruett's a good wine type name. For some reason, it works well.
That's right. And we're very small. We only make 600 cases a year. And if anybody's interested, it's pruettvineyard.com or scottpruett.com. Either way, they'll track you down there. We have, you know, small wine club. We have 3 bottles times a year, a mixed case. We sell out of everything we make. And for instance, like at the Rolex dinner that we have Friday night, very exclusive, very high-end Rolex dinner.
Right.
They're serving our wines to some of the best in the industry.
Wow.
And continually, all these people come back and whether it's the president of Porsche or the president of Ferrari, and they say, 1, we love your wine, and 2, how do we get your wine?
Wow.
So it just made it feel good, and I love being it. I love doing it. I looked to get a little bit bigger at one point, but it was too much work, and I would have had to hire people.
Yeah,
and that's different. I don't want to do that.
Right.
So we're 500-600 cases a year. It's my wife and I. And that's what we do.
Well,
we love sharing it with friends.
Oh, it was fantastic. Of course, that's what happened here is we got so big and grew so fast, and now we have over 1,000 cars for sale in the building, and it's like, man, I remember the good old days when it was just me and my wife, and we cleaned them, and we took the pictures, and we did all the legwork and everything, and answered all the calls, and now it's just a big business. Now it's not fun car business like what we started out doing.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I was listening to you before I came on, and I mean, that'd be like a kid in a candy store. It sounds like the cars you have, what you have available. I'm kind of looking for something really special. So if something comes through, don't put it online. Just give me a call. That special car is coming in.
I will absolutely do that. And when
just between us.
Yeah,
okay?
just me and you. Nobody's going to see this, so we don't have to worry about that. So you got to come see us next time you're in this part of the world. Please call me and come see us because we'd love to give you the nickel tour. And I'm coming to visit you in California because I've never been to a winery where I actually knew the person that was in charge.
Well, we'll absolutely would love to have you come for a visit. California is not a bad place to go walk through the vineyards and drink a little wine. And absolutely, this year that's on my bucket list. I'm going to come visit you guys. I want to see, because not only the friendship, but also getting an opportunity to see your cars and see what you have in building. And I'm a car guy. I love car guys. My dad was a car guy, grandfather car guy. The only problem is I'm not sure I have enough money to buy as much as I want to buy when I come visit you.
That's my problem as well too. So great to have you on. Thanks so much for everything. We'll talk to you soon, Scott. Scott Pruett.
I'll come visit. I'll come visit.
Please do.
Thank you.
Thanks again.
All
Take
right.
care.
Buying and selling via consignment is safe, easy, and secure. We advertise, sell, and ship worldwide. And if you'd like to know all the advantages of selling your car through consignment, the information's available on our website, or you can talk to a classic car specialist who can answer all your questions. Plus, you can easily search our inventory online at classicautomall.com.
And we're back with the Classic Auto Mall podcast from the Classic Auto Mall studio in Morgantown, Pennsylvania. How about a great guest? Scott Pruett.
Amazing. Man. What a career.
What a career.
Incredible.
And still going strong with his winery. And his wine, I mean, he's not kidding.
How much is a case of wine, by the way? I'm not really.
I don't know.
I'm not up on it. 12? Is it 12 bottles?
Yeah, 12 bottles. They're like probably $100 a bottle. Probably 10.
I wasn't figuring the money. I was just thinking he said 600 cases.
Yeah,
I don't know how many bottles that is.
Yeah, that's 12 bottles. So that's 6,000 something. Good math we got going here. Yeah.
Yeah, great stuff.
Carry the one, 600.
And he does it all himself.
Him and his wife.
That's amazing.
And they write books. We didn't even get to talk about his children's books. He wrote. He signed some books for our kids. It's called what was the name of the book? I can't remember. It was 12 Little Race Cars.
Oh wow!
And a case of wine is 12. So
there you go.
Well, there you have it. So, but anyway, a great guy. We met, like I said, at Simeone, and we kind of hit it off right. I was kind of hanging at the bar, drinking some free swill, and he came up and started talking, and just down to earth as they come. Great guy.
Yeah.
You know, the kind of guy that you wish all the success in the world for. You know, that's the kind of guy that you root for. You know, and
I love that Simeone honors these. This is a good way to meet like big stars, big racers, Roger Penske and other people who they bring
Mario
down.
Andretti, Richard Petty was there recently. I mean, all these different people.
Emerson Fittipaldi.
Yeah. I mean, it's just crazy, and they're all there. And it's like meeting Coach Vermeil, Dick Vermeil, who coached the Super Bowl winning Rams in early 2000s. He goes to a lot of those dinners. We get to hang out with him. He kind of knows who I am now. He doesn't say, "Hey, Stewart," but
that's cool.
He goes, "I got to get up to your place one of these days," So
that's awesome.
It's awesome. That's the kind of stuff that you can't really buy in this hobby. It just kind of happens. I guess you could buy. You could be a sponsor and then
buy your way in.
You buy your way in one way or the other, right? But anyway. Scott Pruett, we'll definitely have him on, and we'll definitely get a better connection. We were a little in and out in our connection with that, and it wasn't. I don't think it was on our end. By God, it better no.
No. Coast to coast, a little tough sometimes.
Coast to coast is tough, and especially he's in a rural area, so it's not nothing.
Good point. So, mountainous area.
Mountainous area.
Yep.
Yeah.
Not a lot of vineyards in L.A.
Yeah.
No.
The concrete jungle does not have a lot of vineyards. That is correct. But there was so much more that I wanted to ask him about,
Sure.
And so we'll make a new list, and then we'll have him on again.
Excellent.
Start over, and next week we'll be back, and we'll be talking more cars and more stuff and all that good stuff. We'll catch you next time on the Classic Auto Mall podcast.
You've been listening to the Classic Auto Mall podcast with your host, Stuart Howden, executive producer Steve Safir, produced and engineered by yours truly, J.R. Russ. Thanks for listening and sharing the Classic Auto Mall podcast. Available on classicautomall.com, YouTube, or wherever you get your podcasts. Music courtesy of the Pat Travers Band, produced by Car Smarts Media. Copyright all rights reserved.